Hey, this is Lee Bergstein. We're here at the Real Deal Forum. We've been here forever, but we are still here, and we're super excited to have with us Allia Mohamed, a returning guest, one of several returning guests today. She is the CEO and co-founder of OpenIgloo, which is New York City's first tenant review platform, helping to bring transparency and trust to the rental market. We're going to talk about the state of the New York City rental market, a little bit about OpenIgloo, but first, also Emily's here too.
Yes, I'm here too.
Emily's also here. This is what happens when you're just doing podcasts all day. You forget kind of where you are, who you're with.
What time it is?
But we are with Emily.
Thank you.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, Brian.
And hi, Allia. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
So for those who have not listened to our legacy episode, tell the listeners what OpenIgloo is, how you started it. Give us the 2-minute elevator pitch for the product.
OpenIgloo was born from my own frustrations as a renter. So I had my fair share of problematic buildings, unresponsive landlords. So whenever I would apartment
Unresponsive landlords, that does not
that doesn't exist.
That doesn't happen.
Definitely not in New York City.
No.
But when I was apartment hunting, I really wanted to do more research, make sure I was picking a good spot. So I would stand outside of buildings waiting for people walking in and out saying, hey, do you live here? How's the landlord? Should I move in? And I got a lot of really valuable information from doing that. So that was the light bulb for OpenIgloo.
Got some spare change too.
Exactly. Can we build a platform, crowdsource this tenant feedback, couple it with city data, and really give renters the data they need to make informed decisions about their housing? Of course, the platform has evolved beyond just collecting reviews and actually helping renters navigate their apartment hunt. But that's the quick summary in a few seconds.
I'm curious about the evolution because we talked to you, 2 years ago? I'm sure the product has changed, the platform has changed. So what are some of the new ways that the platform has evolved? How are you helping renters kind of navigate what's an increasingly difficult market to navigate?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So at the beginning, of course, we were just focused on building a renters community. So we've supported over 2 million New York City renters with their apartment hunt. But what started happening, and this is not something we had prepared for, landlords started calling us saying, okay, how can I participate? How can I post my listings? How can I respond to reviews? How can I leverage this data to improve tenant satisfaction and the quality of our buildings? So really how we've migrated the platform is becoming an apartment marketplace, connecting renters with these landlords and facilitating lease transactions transparently and digitally, of course.
Go ahead.
I was wondering, what information do you think is the most important for renters going in that was lacking before?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's so subjective, right? Every renter has different preferences. And you talk to anyone, they say, I want washer and dryer, I want an elevator building, I want a doorman building, all of these things. Whereas other renters might not care about that, right? They're happy to be in a walk up in the Lower East Side, bars and restaurants blasting music till 5 a.m. So really what we've done is just trying to highlight what are the pros, what are the cons, what is the information you need to make a decision that suits your needs. And this is something landlords appreciate as well, because why do they want a family with 2 young kids moving into an apartment where there's a bodega blasting music till 4 a.m. every single night?
Yeah, that's where lawyers get involved when that happens.
Right.
Right. You want to avoid lawyers at all costs.
Yes.
Have you noticed trends in terms of what New York City renters are looking for these days and what they want to avoid? What are the hot button issues for renters right now?
It's a great question. So top of mind is rent increases. Every single renter has experienced...
They want more rent increases.
Yeah, they want more rent.
Yeah.
The higher the rent, the better.
Yeah.
But every single renter has experienced this debilitating, deflating renewal that comes in their mailbox that says your rent's going up 20%. And then they have to move. So really what renters are starting to prioritize is, 1, can I find a rent stabilized apartment? Or 2, can I find a building where good cause eviction applies? Or 3, can I find a landlord that actually just wants to prioritize retention and isn't just going to hand out these 20% rent increases willy-nilly? And that's what we've built into our platform, is actually allowing renters to filter for those types of qualities when they're searching.
That's great.
Yeah.
Puts it all at their fingertips. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead, Emily.
Oh, no, I was just going to say. No, why don't you go ahead, Lee?
No, why don't you go ahead,
Why
Emily?
don't you go ahead, Lee?
I love this.
I've been talking too much. It's your turn.
No, I mean, how difficult is it for renters to find that, like, before you existed? I mean, where are they going to find this information?
Oh my God, it was so cumbersome. And we went through this experience as a team when we were trying to build out this feature. I mean, DHCR posts addresses in a PDF every single year of every single building that has registrations. Of course, It's tens of thousands of line items, very difficult for renters to navigate. Same thing with good cause eviction. You know, as exciting as it was for renters, it was a very complicated rollout. Oh, it only applies to buildings built before 2009. Oh, it only applies to landlords that own 10 or more units. Your average renter has a full-time job because they need to pay the rent. They don't have time to do this deep dive into the research. So this is really what we've tried to streamline and simplify for renters to just say, hey, show me buildings that have good cause eviction, go, enter.
Yeah, that's great. So it sounds like you've done a great job of now building a landlord community too. What, in the same manner that tenants are looking for certain things, are landlords looking for the same old thing, good credit, stability, or are there other variables that are important to them?
100%. A lot of things on landlords' mind right now is fraud. This is something that they've experienced for many years.
Yeah.
Fraudulent rental applications is something that they're experiencing. Of course, they want to ensure that they're collecting rent from the tenants that they're placing. So this is at the forefront of their minds. How can we leverage technology? How can we leverage AI? Not only to qualify tenants, but also streamline the process, right? It shouldn't take 5 days to review an application and give an approval, right? And these are things that we're supporting our landlord partners with as well.
What are some of the ways that you're supporting?
Yeah, so one of the things is renters can come onto OpenIgloo, they search for an apartment. Once they find something that suits their needs, they can submit an application. That application automatically gets reviewed for all of the landlord's parameters.
No broker involved.
With no broker involved.
Okay.
Really, this is the future, right? Everything should be able to be secured in just a few clicks.
Yeah.
And this is something landlords are excited about. So you submit your application on OpenIgloo, you get approved, you get a notification that says, hey, you've been approved for this apartment. Submit your payment, sign the lease, all done. I remember having to go to a real estate office in the middle of Brooklyn to sign a physical lease, get the keys handed over. This is just not how real estate is done anymore.
Yeah.
And OpenIgloo is really supporting and sort of digitizing what has been, a very cumbersome process, especially in New York City.
So it seems like the feedback from landlords is actually good, and you would think that if they're being reviewed, maybe they would be upset, but it's a more positive thing.
It's a great point. I'm not saying that there aren't any angry landlords out there, right? Like, we've definitely got our fair share of emails from landlords saying, hey, we need to take this review down. But what I'm really excited about the partners that we've built amongst multifamily operators is they're excited about getting this information. It is really good for their business if they know what renters are complaining about. And I'm sure this has been a theme of guests you've spoken to and also themes of this conference is, what do renters want? What should I be developing? What should I be prioritizing? And sometimes it's not the pool and the amenities and all these fancy things. Sometimes it's just having a super that responds to you within a 24-hour period. It can be as simple as that. And landlords appreciate that learning that the platform is giving them.
Wow.
I was going to ask you about the pools and the amenities because, we do a lot of commercial office work, and we're finding increasingly that in Class B buildings, the way that landlords are attracting tenants is through amenities. Don't work from home. You can't go to the gym in your building. You can't, we have a pickleball court in our office. Are you seeing some of that translate to the residential market, or are they just still very different in that respect?
It's definitely translating to the residential market, and you're seeing that in the new construction buildings that are going up. It's sort of becoming a default in-unit washer and dryer, gym, package management. All of those things are sort of standard.
I still have nightmares about hauling my bag of laundry down Avenue A, like 7 blocks, after doing it, and stuff would fall out. Oh my God.
100%. I've definitely been there. And it's one of those things where renters will come to us and say, hey, I really wanted a building that had a laundry room or in-unit washer and dryer. And then they move in and it turns out the laundry room's never maintained, or the washing machines always break. And you were better off going to your very reliable laundromat on the corner, right? So
we're not trying to put the laundromats out of business with this podcast.
Oh, I love a good
place.
wash and fold. That's my favorite thing about New York City. But I will say residential renters are different than commercial renters in the sense that they want to keep costs down. right? And this is still New York City. People are not spending all of their time in their apartments.
Right.
So I'm sure that renters would forego that extra $200, $300 a month to not get the pool or not have the gyms. And what I'm also seeing, and we're seeing this in the reviews, is a lot of these buildings are actually charging amenity fees. You're already paying crazy amounts of rent, and then it's like, oh, you want this, want this?
Wow.
That's going to be extra. And that just, rubs consumers the wrong way.
Yeah.
Well, that was making me wonder, like, what sort of trends you're seeing. I'm sure it's always changing what landlords are offering, what renters really want. So, what's the thing now that you see people gravitating towards?
Honestly, and this is what I always tell landlords, just keep it simple, right? Because this is the question, what should I build? What should I invest in? Which amenities are at top of mind for renters? And what we're seeing in the OpenIgloo data is keep it simple. Have an on-site management team that responds immediately. No matter how minor it is, right? Even if a renter is like, hey, my light bulb burnt out, which is, you should be changing your own light bulbs in New York City if you're a renter.
I can't do that.
But just have someone responsive, right? Same thing around renewal time. Renewal time is really anxiety-inducing for a lot of renters. Have a leasing team that's available to answer questions about the legalese. I'm sure you guys have this with your clients. Sometimes you just want someone to walk you through a clause and explain it word for word. Have someone available to do those things. So that's really what we're seeing renters want. It's not necessarily the fancy amenities.
I'm sure landlords want to explain their own leases to tenants too, because they can do it in the most persuasive way possible.
100%. And sometimes it's just walking them through something. Like, you see this in a lot of New York City leases. You have to have carpeting down on 80% of your apartment because you're trying to reduce noise translation. But that's like a confusing clause, especially for a lot of new New Yorkers who are like, what do you mean I have to install carpeting? That's a bizarre thing. So having that team to call and say, hey, is this normal? Can you explain this to me? What's the spirit behind this? I think is important.
This is very interesting because you would think with a platform like this, you're taking the people factor out of it, but it's actually making the people factor easier. Like you're more easily paid.
100%. The way that we think about AI and technology as a company is there's a lot of things that can be streamlined. There's a lot of things that can be automated. Real estate, there's always going to be a ceiling, right? There's a lot of things you can do up into a certain point. And at the final leg, when you're signing that dotted line and handing over tens of thousands of dollars, you want to talk to a real person. So that's how we think about building out, our platform in the future.
Yeah. So you need to talk to a real AI person at some
100%.
point in the future.
AI can only take you so far in a lot of industries.
There are a lot of AI salespeople now. When you call businesses on the phone, they're like, this person sounds too perfect. And that's because they are.
Yes, but I don't mind that, right? If they get the job done and it's like an easy, click, 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 hang up, and I don't have to deal with someone, perfect. But when you want to talk to somebody, there's got to be someone available.
You need to hit 0 and get that person.
Yes, exactly.
So what, we're going to let you go in a couple minutes, but what is the data kind of informed you about the broader rental market in New York City? Where is it right now? Where do you think it's going? So over the course of today, we've talked a lot about lack of housing, lack of affordable housing. Given the current political climate, how is that going to change? Is there the political willpower to create more supply, even though there is a lot of demand? So what is the data telling you about some of that stuff?
Landlords are struggling and renters are struggling. And I think this is a perfect moment for these two sides to come together in
on OpenIgloo.
Yes, on OpenIgloo in a constructive and productive way. I don't think it's healthy for these extremisms that are being discussed. The real silver bullet solution to everything that's been discussed in housing is to build more housing.
Right.
Every single project that gets proposed gets shut down by some community board, and it goes through 3 or 4 different filters. And sometimes, with reason, right? There's some genuine reasons to protest some developments, but we have to move faster as a city to build houses, because then this is not even be a conversation. You're not going to have renters struggling with 20% rent increases or 30% broker fees or all of the things that renters are complaining about really start to go away when there's a lot of supply. So that's where I want to see the conversation go. And in the meantime, we're going to do everything we can on OpenIgloo to just connect renters with the landlords that are performing well, that have reputable buildings, and also care about their renters, right? That no matter what's going on in the landscape, they're not going to displace people just to increase the bottom line. And I'm really proud that the partners that we have on OpenIgloo embody those values.
I think one of the great things about your product, and then I'll let Emily ask the last question, It is so much of the landlord-tenant relationship feels transactional, and it's very easy if you're a landlord to say, I only care about the money because I don't know who this tenant is anyway. Same thing for the tenant. I don't know what this landlord is experiencing. I don't know what costs they have. All I know is they're increasing my rent. Why? And what I love about the platform is it's humanizing both sides and giving them a place to kind of meet in the middle, which is where so many of these problems can and should be solved.
100%. It's a long-term relationship. It shouldn't be transactional. And I will say, landlords will have a lot easier of a time if their buildings are well managed, because renters have nothing to complain about. It's like renters actually shouldn't know who their landlords are, right? Same thing with like constituents shouldn't know who their council members are, right? You only need to know who those people are if things are going wrong. So that's how we think about it at OpenIgloo.
And I guess my last question is, what's your vision for OpenIgloo going forward? Like, what's next?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we really want to continue with our mission of bringing transparency to renting. This is something that just doesn't exist in every other industry except for renting, even though renters spend so much money, making this.
Is this existing in other cities? Like, is there
You know what? I get asked this question all the time. Like, when are you launching LA? When are you launching San Francisco? I get DMs, emails, phone calls all the time about this. This is a pain point that exists across the country. This lack of transparency, this imbalance of power that happens between renters and landlords. So we're hyper focused on New York right now because we got a lot of things to chew, but we're definitely thinking, about expansion at some point. But for us, the broader vision is how do we connect renters with more reputable buildings and landlords and really facilitate as many of these leases as we possibly can.
Awesome.
So if tenants want to find out more about the product, they're looking for a platform they can go to. If landlords want to hear more about the product, if anybody wants to find out more, where should they go? What should they do?
Yes, you can go to OpenIgloo.com. We are active on social media, on Instagram, OpenIgloo. TikTok is my pride and joy, OpenIgloo_NYC. And then you can always send us an email at info@OpenIgloo.com. And I promise we read and respond to every single message.
Oh, wait, before I let you go.
Yes.
Because last time we asked you this question, I remember this question. You know what I'm going to ask, right? What is the most memorable complaint that you've heard from either a tenant or a landlord?
That's a good question.
So I want an updated answer now. I think you kind of played it safe last time.
I played it safe last time.
Can you play it non-safe and give us like a really funny tidbit? Obviously keep it confidential, but...
Yes, completely confidential. Okay, there's one that sticks out in my mind because like when I read it, I was just like so flabbergasted. But we do get a handful of reviews about hauntings or like poltergeist. Very few, but it does happen. And there was an apartment in the East Village where someone wrote this review about like ghost poltergeist activity, and they came with receipts. Like, this person died in my apartment in this year with an article. They attached everything. They brought the priest to exorcise the space, and they warned people in the review, like, hey, just be, and they even said, the neighbors know about this, the super knows about it, the landlord knows about it. It's common knowledge in the building that there's a ghost that lives in this apartment. And I was like, okay.
There probably is a market out there for those who want to live with a ghost. So
there's tons of people that would be super excited about moving into that apartment.
There's an apartment for everybody.
Exactly right. That's the great thing about New York City. There is something for everyone.
Yes.
Oh, that's a great place to end it.
Yeah.
This is a haunting conversation.
Yes.
And we really appreciate it. And we'll have to have you back in 2 more years to see how things are
100%.
going.
I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Allia.
Thank you.
For more on all things real estate and the law, subscribe to this and our other podcasts. Follow Bergstein, Flynn, Knowlton, and Polina on social media. Subscribe to our newsletter and go to bfklawoffice.com. That's bfklawoffice.com to learn more.